Russia, the home of the Russians. Its 144 million citizens busy themselves doing things like having a snack or a cup of coffee, getting home from work or uni, and staring into their mobile phones until it's time for bed. But along with our proud history and vibrant culture, the Russians are bound together by far more powerful and problematic forces, a unique set of behaviors and complicated social codes that the rest of the world will always have trouble understanding. Yes, even the greatest of Russians spent every waking moment blighted, hampered, and frustrated by very Russian problems. Straightforwardness is quite often seen as a distinctive characteristic of the Russians. They usually never struggle in saying things the way they are, in a way which leaves little room for misunderstandings. A Russian person gets rather annoyed when their interlocutor is swaying away from the point of the conversation. Russians rarely do small talk. When two of them talk, it is always straight to the point, without any interludes about the weather or personal matters. Unless, of course, that is the point of their conversation. They are not rude, it's just their way of doing things. Disputes. The Russian blunt straightforwardness is not only a hassle to those unfamiliar with that characteristic, but also to Russians themselves. Straightforwardness can quite often lead to disputes, and as such is the characteristic of the Russian. Much of their communication is occupied by disputes. But for a Russian, a dispute is rarely a bad thing. For most of them, it's a hobby, a form of Socratic discussion, if you will. And if a dispute arises, after it is finished, two Russians will continue their conversation as if nothing happened. Because for them, a dispute really doesn't matter. However, the point of such disputes is rarely to find the truth, but rather a way of communicating emotion, which the Russians also need a way to express. Feelings. A common misconception about the Russians is that they never joke, smile, or love. However, contrary to a common misconception, they can without a doubt be called one of the sincerest of people. They find it incredibly hard to hide their underlying emotions and feelings. You can almost always tell what a Russian is feeling by their facial expression. A Russian will never smile if he's not happy. When communicating with a Russian, it is important to remember that sincerity is a number one priority. Humor. Just like with feelings, humor is not something you usually associate with Russians. However, that is not true. Russians love to joke. However, what is true is the fact that a lot of Russian humor can seem odd to an outsider. Well, that is because a lot of Russian humor draws to shared experiences between the people talking. You could draw a parallel with the way people without a medical education do not understand jokes which doctors make among themselves. Another aspect of Russian humor is that a large portion of it is possible due to the nature of the language. The Russian language, just as many other Slavic languages, makes use of a high degree of inflection. Some Russians criticize their country harshly, others not so much. But when a foreigner criticizes Russia, they will defend it fiercely together. This aspect of the Russian culture is best captured by the paraphrased words of a famous Russian poet, Fyodor Tyutchev. One does not simply understand Russia, one can only believe in it. So what have we learned about the basics of very Russian problems? As soon as one Russian meets another, we get a very efficient transfer of information and emotion, which to an outsider might just seem a little bit off. And in the best of Russian traditions, the point is made and I am off.